Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I was making a video in regards to the Sixers. Got a phone call, answered it, ended the video properly, so there was no need for a fragmented video. But then I started making another video after the phone call ended. Got another phone call, so just threw all that away. I won't even upload that, but I will get into what I was talking about, which was a continuation of basically what I was thinking in regards to the Philly conversation. And what is that? Basically, identifying right now that Joel Embiid is basically with 1 foot in and 1 foot out the door and moving what needs to be moved in order to make it so that he's not. And from my perspective, it is probably Tobias Harris's $35 million expiring contract, 30-something, somewhere in that range. Getting that up out of here, sending that to Toronto, maybe bringing myself back OG Anunoby or Pascal Siakam, whatever else I can get for that expiring contract, which should, in theory, be covetable because Tobias Harris is a pretty good player, and that's a lot of money coming off the books at the end of the season. Just like Russell Westbrook's contract, not as expensive as the Lakers last year with 47, but still very, very covetable when considering that teams want to free up that much cap space for free agents next year. So that should be a covetable piece for not only a team that maybe wants to free up that cap space themselves, but for a team that wants to retrade it at the deadline. So I think I could probably get something for it right now that pretty much looks pretty good. And so that's what I'm doing if I'm Daryl Morey. Obviously, he has a lot of fish to fry with the James Harden trade demand. But for me, I think I can get a lot more going for myself in theory, unless they're involving Tobias Harris in the James Harden trade, which I don't know why they would do because that's a lot of salary going out at once. But in a separate deal, I would definitely do that. I would make Tobias Harris another couple of guys. And if I do so, I believe it probably gives me more ammo to use in a James Harden trade, more ammo from which to toss around to make a trade that I want to happen, maybe bring myself what it is that I ultimately want, rather than just letting a guy who's demanding a trade out. If I have more covetable pieces in the form of this, that, and the third, instead of Tobias Harris at 35, I can keep some of what Tobias 35 is worth and trade some of it as well, as opposed to sending it all out at once in the form of Tobias Harris. So, as we often say, sometimes it's better to have $1 instead of 4 quarters, and some teams it's better to have 4 quarters instead of $1. In this case, I'm turning Tobias Harris into 4 quarters, and I'm sending 2 of those quarters out to get better. In theory, that's just how I'm looking at it. So that's what I think Philly should be on that type of time right now. You shouldn't be thinking about doing nothing that has anything to do with standing pat. This is not the time to stand still. This is the time to be negotiating things to get better. And I'm telling you, that James Harden deal is tricky because you don't want to do anything that's going to murk the ability for you to make that deal in the way that you want to make it. So if he has something, like I said, if Tobias Harris is going to be involved in the deal, then obviously you don't make a separate deal. Maybe you can get that deal all encompassed. Maybe that's exactly what's happening. Maybe they're getting like 8 or 9 teams together to do everything at once. I don't know. But that is what I'm trying to concoct if I'm Daryl Morey right now. That's getting done. And I heard something today, I don't remember who said it. It might have been Perk. Of whom I told y'all they fired. They didn't. Perk is still there, as you probably already know. But nevertheless, Perk said he believes that if they're not gonna bring themselves something, I don't know what it was that he was referring to, but if they ain't gonna do what they need to do to keep Joel Embiid, then he tells them to blow it up. That's essentially the thought. Blow it up. If you ain't gonna bring Joel what he needs, let him go. And I don't disagree at all. I think Perk is right on time with that. As I said in the video before, I just don't think he has time to waste. If I thought Joel Embiid was a 22-year-old center who's still developing, Alperen Sengun or something like that, somebody like Webby or something like that, then of course it's fine. We could wait this out. But Joel, I think, is on the end stages of his 20s. He's probably like 28, 29 years old. I'm pretty damn certain he ain't 30 yet, but I'm damn certain he ain't no 25. So he's in there somewhere, and it's like, at his height and his weight, and the history of injuries that he's had, I don't want to be running around with players that can't help me win or that I have to wait on to get better or any of that crap when I've already been through the history that I have with this team. And something was mentioned on ESPN that makes a lot of sense as well. Is that when was the last time Philadelphia didn't start the season with some drama? Every year. Like every year. And it's not even minor drama. It's Jimmy coming back. It's Ben Simmons coming back. It's James Harden coming back. It's like every year y'all have somebody that wants the hell out of there. And it's like, You also have Joel Embiid, who literally just won MVP. So most teams who have the MVP don't have his running mates continuing to be like a revolving door. And in the coaching situation, I was never a Brett Brown guy. I like Brett Brown's personality and how he related to players, but the only reason why they kept him around past the tanking stuff was because he had ties to Ben Simmons. Once Ben Simmons stopped being a priority, Brett Brown should have stopped being a priority. I'm just being honest, because that's part of the problem is how long they let stuff stick around. It's the same problem I had with the Portland Trailblazers. You keep your coaches too long when they ain't proving nothing. And then they hired Doc Rivers. Doc's track record on the court, I didn't think that was the greatest hire. It played out exactly the way I thought it would. Wasted years again. He stayed too long. He should have been fired probably a year sooner. As soon as he cost them Ben Simmons with his words, he should have been fired that offseason. Ben Simmons, that whole thing went left because of several things, but probably none more so than Doc Rivers not committing to him being the starting point guard 25 minutes after he botched the game in the playoffs. You know what I mean? It's like, these are the type of things going into free agency that you can't have as an organization. When that piece is represented in so much of what it is that you're doing, and he's such a flawed piece. It's like, nah, you can't send that message to him. Look how it played out. And so for me, it's like, not only did that trickle down to wasting the next season, it ultimately landed them James Harden, as to which ended up wasting the next season after that. So this is where, and then, and at the very least, they couldn't do right by James Harden. Nobody on this channel is going to tell you he's worth $47 million this year. Not at all. But if I agreed to pay him that last year, and the only reason why he took the pay cut was because of it, and I come around this season, I'm creating drama by not giving him that money. You see what I'm saying? I'm creating a problem that doesn't need to be there for extra $15, $20 million or whatever it's going to be. And maybe that makes sense to me. Maybe as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, okay, well, that's probably worth it. But is it worth it when it opens up more problems for you? It's the same thing I said about the Lakers possibly taking Cam Whitmore instead of Jalen Hood-Schifino. Yeah, we take the better player, but now we opened up the door for like 5-6 other problems that we wouldn't have had if we would have just took Jalen Hood-Schifino. You know, so I look at Philadelphia, it's like they didn't identify that type of conundrum and allow 4 or 5 other problems to hop into the door just from them doing things a certain way. And they did that several times, creating several problems each time. And that's what it is. You just keep seeing this nonsense. And then the statement they released on Tyrese Maxey seemed like some posturing to me. Either it's posturing or they know of him to be someone who's still getting better, for which I believe. And they don't want to give up on him. I believe in him like that too, to be honest with you. So if I had Tyrese Maxey on my team, I'd probably prioritizing him and paying him. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point is, in a nutshell, based on the other assets that they have, as we mentioned in the first video about this today, is Tyrese Maxey the best piece to have next to Joel Embiid? And if not, should I have not already moved him so that I can get that piece on my team? Like, there's nothing wrong with Tyrese Maxey, but he's a shorter guard with hyperactive speed. I can find those guys around. They're around. You know what I mean? They're around. So, not to say that Tyrese Maxey is easily replaceable, but to say that Tyrese Maxey's piece is often found. Short guard who can run, score, do great things. That's fine. If I have one and I know I can get another one, then shouldn't I take the one I have and get what it is that is not so easy to find, that is more so needed on my team? That's the kind of thing I'm thinking about. If I'm Philadelphia, you know what type of point guard I want? A tall one. Just like I had in Ben Simmons, but only somebody who could shoot a little bit. Maybe a Cade Cunningham type. Tall. So when I go up against certain teams that have bigger guards, it's not a thing. It's not a thing. You know what I mean? Because it definitely is, as long as Tyrese Maxey is your point guard, who could actually be a shooting guard. Maybe he's not a pure point guard, to be honest with you. Maybe he's a guy that probably looking for a shot a little more than I need for a guy like Joel Embiid who needs a setup point guard. Somebody who's going to get him the ball. And so it's a lot of stuff there that I'm like, look, as much as I love Tyrese Maxey, I love about 9-10 other guards too. I'm shopping Tyrese Maxey, and I'm going to bring myself one of those guards that better fit Joel Embiid if that's what Joel would welcome. Now, if Joel Embiid's on some, I don't want to lose Tyrese Maxey, then Tyrese Maxey's untouchable. The end. But the point is, I'm looking at what I have. I'm saying he ain't happy, and I'm going to turn it into something that I think can make him happy. Because I've been doing a lot of stuff in that regard that didn't make him happy, and I'm on the verge of losing him. So that's how it has to be in Philadelphia. Whether they are willing to adhere to that or not is absolutely irrelevant, because that is exactly what's on their table. And I hope they're not counting on him wanting to have a Kobe, Dirk, Tim Duncan like career in Philadelphia, because those guys got rings. Where is his? And so that's what it really comes down to. For those in Philadelphia, it was said on ESPN that they possibly think that he wants to have one of those type of careers with Philly. It's like, he may, but eventually as a big man, he's compared to all the big men, they all win. Jokic just won with the only team he's ever been drafted with. He got 2 MVPs. At this point, one could look at it like he's in a race against Jokic, and if that's the case, then obviously he's losing that battle. You know what I mean? And that's unacceptable if you're Joel Embiid as well. And Denver Nuggets have won a championship before you. The Denver Nuggets. Like, that's how you got to look at that if you're Joel Embiid. And that's exactly how I'm looking at it on this channel. So it's like, nah, that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, Philadelphia 76ers are probably a team that should likely be able to garner more free agency and more of all of what you need in Philly with their storied organization than the Denver Nuggets. Who have a respectful organization and now will become storied now that they've gotten their championship. They're the real deal. But before that, they're a team that never won nothing. They shouldn't be doing better than Philly. So it's like, this is what you're looking at if you're the Joel Embiid. You never wanted to be there in the first damn place. Let's not even lie about that. Anybody who saw him on draft night knew he didn't want to be there. And as I've said once before on this channel, it played out exactly the way he was worried. That's what his career, it was almost like he could see the whole thing playing itself out there. Next 10 years, he was going to be wasting his time one year after another. First couple years, being as healthy as necessary to build themselves to being what it is or to be worth it for them to have done all this. And in the next several years, dealing with the mistakes that they make around him as they're not good enough to keep him up. It's like, as he said, he puts in the work to make sure that he's as good as he needs to be every year. Who else going to come to the party with him? And going into whatever year this is, year 10, 11, whatever year this is, for him, I'm fed up. For him, I'm fed up. And I'm not looking at this the same way as I look at Portland's situation in Dame, because we know of their cap situation on this channel. We know of Portland's tax mess ups more or less over the last 10, 11 years. They've been in the dumps financially and kept it quiet. So it's not the same thing. They actually couldn't bring themselves the things that they needed because they could never use their mid-level exception at all. Almost the whole time Dame's been there, they ain't been able to use it. So that left them behind the 8 ball, making it so that he didn't have enough, making it so that he would end up doing too much and end up getting hurt and stuff like that. So he didn't have the same situation. That's Dame's fault for not identifying that Portland wasn't that great of an organization. He should have got the hell out of there sooner. Nobody fault but Dame. Joel's situation, different. 76ers ain't had those problems fundamentally. They just made bad decisions that put them in a position to look as if they were as bad as that. They weren't that bad. They just didn't do right. So, and I'm gonna tell you something else. It became very clear to me early on that Ben Simmons should have been traded sooner. When it was evident that his shooting was never going to come around, he should have been moved. He should have been moved while he still had value before he ever got hurt like that. While he was still a star-level player, because at the end of the day, they could not get over the hump. They couldn't get over the hump, and he was a very valuable piece before all the stuff went down. If they were doing what they were supposed to do, they'd have chosen between the two of them then. And that was what we were saying way back then. It's like, why do they have these two players playing together when they don't particularly fit one another? They're both franchise stars. Pick one and let's move forward. And they refuse to, and now look at them. So all of this stuff just trickled down to why Philadelphia ain't as good as they need to be. All of this trickles down to why Joel Embiid should probably want to out of here right now. And I don't blame him. I think he should leave. I think he should leave those people right now if they're not able to do what it is that we suggested at the beginning of the video, which is turn Tobias Harris into a bunch of pieces, a handful of pieces of equity, future stuff, whatever, that you can immediately move or immediately help Joel win a championship with. You know what I mean? That's it. Nothing else is acceptable. Re-signing, letting Tobias Harris expire and then re-signing him at another price could be okay if you value Tobias Harris that much, because he's still going to have 35 coming off the books. You re-sign him for what, $5 million a year? That's $30 million off your books, and you still got Tobias Harris. So maybe that's what they want. Maybe they value Tobias to that level. They did definitely choose Jimmy Butler over him, as Jimmy often tells us. So maybe that's the justification for what they're doing there. But if it's going to cost me Joel Embiid, I mean, what is it we're doing? What are we doing? So I don't know. If I'm Joel Embiid, I feel like I can go anywhere and win. But can I stay where I've been and win? That's probably not the case. And that is a thing. And I hear a lot of people saying, oh, Joel Embiid has to take it on himself. He has to be healthy, this, that. He got to be playing harder. He disappears in the playoffs. All of that is cool. I do agree he's going to have to play better. But as a big dude playing a lot of games for a lot of years in a row, getting to the second round each time, that's a lot of basketball with not a lot of backups for him. Not a lot of opportunities for him to have a seat. If he ain't out there, they ain't winning. So when game 90 comes around, he's in the second round and he's exhausted, that's a big dude. Maybe he needed more help. Maybe that's a thing. Maybe he needs to change his diet. Maybe he needs to hit the gym harder. I don't know. But the point is, there needs to be some help for him. You can't expect for him to turn into a distance runner in it. Like, you know what I mean? He is who he is and he's aging. So if you're not going to bring to him what helps him, asking him to help you be more than he's been is silly. That's what I'll say. Asking him to speed up, you know what I mean? Asking him to become more durable in year 11 or whatever this is, not realistic. So for those who are saying, Joel needs to do better, it's like, yeah, maybe he does, but he may not be capable of that, and it's going to be on Philadelphia to not have that as an excuse to not get better. So that's where I'm at with Philly, man. You got to do something for yourself that makes it so that you're not waiting on $35 million to come off your books next season in order to feel good about yourself. That can't be what we're waiting on with Joel Embiid about to play another full season for a team that ain't really win now. Same thing, and we got to be consistent, because I'll be getting on the case of other teams that don't do this, that play around with their timeline when they know damn well they ain't good enough. Chicago, Golden State are two that come to mind right away. You and I both know, if you follow them close enough in the offseason, that on paper they don't even look like they're close enough to winning a championship. Now, Chicago's done some good things with their role-playing situation. They just signed Torrey Craig. I think they're a deep team. They could be a strong basketball team, sort of like the Knicks last year, but probably fall to the same fate. Okay? And they're not going nowhere. That's kind of how I'm looking at these boys over here in Philadelphia. They ain't going nowhere. But it don't have to stay that way. You move this, and this, you look good. The Paul Reed contract, I like Paul Reed. I think he'll be a fine player. You know, they got some good stuff. Like I said, Tyrese Maxey, solid. Mo Bamba, I'm high on Mo Bamba as a role-playing center who can back up Joel Embiid. I like that role for him. Cheap, don't cost nothing, easily retradable. It's a good piece. So not everything there is bad, but they got to get certain things in order. Certain things just have to fall in line. So that's where I'm at with the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm not overly enamored with what they have. I think there are pieces around the league that they should covet. And they should open up their imagination for their acquisition of certain pieces. A guy like, you love Tobias Harris, that's cool. Not Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, that's wonderful. But Anthony Simons may be on the move. Don't you think you might want to consider acquiring that contract maybe? I don't know, maybe not. But the point is, there are other guards all over the place that you can open your mind and your imagination to and bring yourself an entirely new team for the price that you have to trade. You can get all kinds of stuff. You know, so that's what I'm saying. There are players around. Toronto needs to make a move. Toronto is another one of them teams that ain't good enough, and they're even worse than the teams we've mentioned. I'll be surprised if they even make the playoffs this year. And they got a whole Scotty Barnes they need to consider, and a bunch of win-now dudes. You know, Anunoby, Siakam, Trent, all them dudes are cool, but they're not good enough to win. And maybe if they make some moves and grab themselves a Tobias Harris coming off the books at 35 next year, that might make them a lot more sense for what it is they want to do. You know what I mean? If I'm Toronto, I got my eyes on certain pieces that have been long for Canada. Now, I'm going to tell y'all, a guy like SGA, I already got my eyes on him if I'm Masai Ujiri. That's a Canadian kid that's going to be a superstar. I need him on my team in a couple years. Like, that's the type of stuff I'm thinking. You know, it's like, I'm not going to toy around if I'm the Toronto Raptors, because they have some really, really fantastic players that would likely be willing to come to your organization, probably more so than ever before. Because the league is more so international with superstars than it's ever been before. So that heightens the chances of some of them guys being willing to play outside of the States, a.k.a. Toronto. So if I'm Masai Ujiri, I'm like, look, let me get some of this stuff off the book. Some of these guys are just aging here, but they ain't really got the upside to make us champs. We've already been champs, so we already won with some of them too. So it ain't like we doing anything. Joe OG Anunoby won a championship with him already. It's cool, but His price tag, I personally think his price tag is far too high for his expectations of staying healthy. When he's healthy, he's a great two-way player, but he's never healthy enough to put himself in a star range. He's always below the star tier, even though he's good enough to be a star player. So for Masai Ujiri to have a price tag on him that is so high, I think it's misguided, and I think he probably should move that thing for the Tobias Harris contract. I really do. Move that. But you can't tell Masai Ujiri nothing, man. You can't tell him nothing. He got this. So I never really try to talk too much to the Raptors. But as far as the Philadelphia 76ers, yeah, y'all got to do something, man. And I'm telling you, I don't pay close enough attention to y'all to really know if this is the right move. But I'm probably cleaning out the front office. Daryl Morey, this is it for him. He's out. I don't like none of that stuff that happened with James Harden. And as I said, some of these assets, they're not moving around. They're not doing anything. You could have traded George Niang last year at the deadline to get something for him. You just let him walk. That was a player that y'all fans really loved. That was a role player that really did good work for you. You knew damn well you weren't going to pay his salary. Why wasn't he moved? So these are the type of things like, yo, you just let him walk. That was value you needed. Philadelphia has long been doing things in a way that I just think has not been up to par. They sacrificed a great deal to get to where they're at, but the sacrifices were empty because they didn't do good things after they made those sacrifices. So that's what I see there. They're at the mercy of Joel Embiid, and he's trolling. He don't know whether he want to stay or go. He seems like he's torn, but that is not going to make him a champion. So that concludes my conversation. I'm pretty sure I burnt my food. Stuff been cooking for almost an hour while making this content. But that's pretty much what it is, man. I hope everybody's having a fantastic Tuesday. And this concludes my Philadelphia's second video on the day, video 44. I'll thank you all for watching.